Howdy, y'all. My name's Paul Thompson, and as we approach the 4th of July, this is my Project Hell, where for the next 20 minutes or so, Kelly and I are going to throw away the corporate lingo and talk to you guys about no-nonsense project management, hopefully giving you some plain solutions to real project problems.
And I'm Kelly Schockler. And as Paul said, we're going to close out the month of June with what we like to call a hot topic deep dive. This is where we get underneath the surface of a relevant hot topic for project managers, and then we explore different ways to navigate through and hopefully come out on the other side relatively unscathed and with your PM mojo intact. And just want to mention, if you've got a hot topic for us to consider, shoot Paul and I an email at myprojecthell@gmail.com. and we'll take it under consideration and bring it onto the show. So Paul, thanks for signing up to introduce the hot topic today. I hope you realize that was on you. What have we got for our listeners?
Absolutely. And I like that, the mojo. But today's deep dive is around transition and succession planning. And for me, it's really two sides of the same coin, right? So you have succession planning. I see that as more strategic side that helps identify future leaders as you focus on the continuity in your people, processes, and social goals. Now, transition plans, that's sort of the other more tactical side, right? Taking action on more immediate change to carry you through a set of operational steps and really facilitate that smooth realignment, rather than run through the store with your hair on fire, just reacting to everything in flux. But Kelly, why don't we start with transition and we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, okay. I like the way you broke that down, like strategic succession planning, more tactical transition planning. And I'm thinking about when I was once in the oil spill response industry back in the day in my career, and the company that I worked for had two words in their tagline, and they left a huge impression on me. They were prevention and response. So prevention was the number one goal, response was the second. So if you do the hard work of prevention, then the response efforts would be one-off situations, theoretically. And so in my mind, both succession and transition planning have to do with that idea of prevention, like preventing knowledge loss. Okay, so let's take on this idea of transition planning. What does that mean? So I'm going to guess that most of our listeners have had an occasion in their career where you're moving on to another role, inside or outside the company, or maybe you were laid off or even let go unceremoniously. No shame in any one of those. The latter happens to the best of us. The thing is that no matter what we've find ourselves in as a situation, they all require some sort of transition plan, even the unceremonious firing, especially the unceremonious firing, right?
Right.
The stuff that you do to make sure that the person coming in behind you has what they need to be successful and to pick up with from where you left off. So Paul, let's indulge me here. Let's talk about what a good transition plan looks like, and I want your take on it too. The first thing is, imagine you're coming into a new role, you're picking up a project someone else has left behind. What would you like to have? What would you like to have to help you pick this thing up and seamlessly continue the work of the last PM? That's kind of how I like to think of it. And I have come into roles before where I've picked up projects that were left midstream and literally there was zero clues, right? Nothing. I had to spend countless hours researching, talking to people to track things down, recreating the wheel. And this had negative impact on my ability to restart the project delivery activities and process. So having things like links to project artifacts you've created, hopefully you've got a project page or a document repository, make sure it's all there with clear file names, your stakeholder and customer org chart. Ideally, you've done a stakeholder assessment. If you didn't do any of that, do the right thing and at least list the names and the roles of your project team and your key customer stakeholders. Just a few things to mention. And there's other things. Paul, you might have a different perspective or some other things to include in this transition planning idea.
Well, I really like a couple of things you talked about, right? And one of them, what would you want to receive? You're walking into this cold. So think about it from that perspective. What would you want to receive? And do you want things handed to you half done? Or would you like the previous person to have kind of put a little bow on it, finished up whatever that particular effort was, and handed it off and set you up for the next activity or task? So I really like using that as the framework. The other thing I loved is that thought of prevention, right? How did you phrase that again? It was
Prevention and response.
And response, right? Because that's a lot of what we're thinking through here. And it kind of brings me to one of my stories about what not to do, right?
Oh, I love these stories.
I've learned more from what not to do stories than how to do things.
Paul's what not to do stories. Yeah. Yes.
So true story. I was at a company and the PM I knew there had been struggling with the boss, right? And one day, without warning, kind of the global email came out with a simple message saying, you know, F you, I'm out of here, bitches. And that was the transition plan, right? And I am sure, I am positive it felt good in the moment, but it did not accomplish squat. And it really hurt the PM more than the manager, right? The project continued because the manager pulled together the team, kind of built out, you know, okay, what are the set of tasks that you guys were working on so we can transition the new project manager in and they can come up to speed. Talking with got all the stakeholders like you described, right? Here's the communication plan we've been following and all the things that they'd been working with, you know. So it did transition relatively quickly when the new PM came in. But now we've talked about this before, Kelly, right? It's a small world out there. And I'll tell you, word got out about that PM with a lot of hiring managers about that kind of behavior. And the PM just lost their referenceability for that employer. And they'd been there 5-6 years or so. Any hopes of severance or unemployment, you know, to help them with the transition was blown out too. So kind of the moral there is, you know, just be thoughtful regardless of which side of the transition plan you're on, and really keep all of this fresh so it's not, oh my God, I'm leaving in 2 weeks, what do I have to do? Kind of keep thinking about, I'm always working a transition plan so I could move on the next day, kind of thing.
Yeah, I like that. That's that prevention, right?
Right.
Have that teed up. And I happen to have a template for this in my PM Rebooted template toolbox on my resources tab on my website at kellyshockler.com. If you want to go opt in and check that out. I've used this myself and it's been really helpful. It's a bit, there's places, all the meetings that you've been doing, who are your stakeholders, links, important links, notes, where you can include special project nuances that would be helpful to someone coming in, especially when it comes to that stakeholder management strategy. It's so great to come in and know, okay, the customer is high maintenance. My sponsor is high maintenance. Here's what you need to do, right? And then take this document, you give it to your manager, and then they can hand it off to the incoming person. So before you skip down that yellow brick road off into the sunset, do a transition plan.
That's right. So how do we switch from that day-to-day tactical and step out and look at it from more of succession planning and more strategic?
Yeah, so succession planning, to me, that's very different. It's having some level of thought and planning behind who might fill your shoes in your role. And you might be thinking, okay, so why on earth would I care about this if this is my manager's responsibility, not mine, right? Not my responsibility. Well, listen up, because it is important. If you are a project manager and you're in a PMO and there's multiple PMs, in the PMO, and they have aspirations to advance into other roles just like you. And so think about, how can you work with your manager on succession planning for when you leave, for when you move on, whether that's internal or external? What are you doing to help prepare up and coming team members? All the team members on the team, they have a role to work with their managers to help fellow teammates get prepared for moving into other roles. Maybe you're a PM and you've got some PM coordinators or associate PMs that you could be helping to mentor and prepare, or senior PM, maybe you have your eye on moving up into a manager, program director, whatever, right? There's work to do to help prepare people to come up and fill your shoes. Paul, have you had experience with that in your company?
So absolutely. And really, when I think about it from the individual's perspective, because you're right? Succession planning typically is viewed from senior leadership's role or from the director's role, right? As there. But have you been stuck in a position where you can't move out of because everyone sees you as the only one who can do it, right? You're that indispensable cog that turns the wheel. And even though there's an opportunity that you want to chase down, you can't, because the company's looking at you going, well, we can't replace you. So you sort of get yourself stuck. And I've always told my senior staff and all the coordinators and project managers that you are way more valuable and marketable when you can replicate yourself through others and free yourself up for new opportunities, right? If I can't get you out of a project to move you up to something more interesting, you're stuck there. So that's kind of the thing to think about from a personal standpoint. And I will tell you that this is an extremely hard lesson to learn, because we've all been there, right, Kelly? We've been there on those projects where things are coming at us and we're managing them. It's in the heat of all of this activity. It's so easy to simply, okay, let me lay out the plan, let me make the assignments and get you guys going on those, so I can just move on to the next fire or to the next set of issues that need to be dealt with. That's kind of that go-to feeling that, is easy to fall into that trap. It's much harder to bring everybody together and start to explain, okay, here's the problem. Here's what I think we need to do about it, but here's why, right? And here's some of the data I need you guys to gather and investigate and give me some ideas about, and look at it from this perspective that you might not be used to framing it, right? So you're starting to teach these folks how to look at things, what to look for, why you make choices for where you put people. All of those things take time and energy. And I can promise you, the first time you do it, twice as long, 3 times as long. The second time you do it with the team, the group of people, it's still twice as long. But by that third time, you're starting to be able to go, okay, Sally, Jane, what I need you guys to do is take this issue that just came up. It's real similar to what we did before. Go get it, deal with it. Just bring it to me and we'll run through it real quick and then we'll move on. And you're starting to get that off your plate. So now all of a sudden, you're dispensable. I don't know if that's the right word, but you are able to take advantage of mobility that's now available to you.
Yeah, and I think what you're talking to is it's shades of mentoring, coaching, and professional development that are all wrapped around this idea of succession planning. It's not just about your manager preparing and planning who they want to come in after them.
Right.
It's about you. How can you partner with your manager to help bring others in your team to succeed you? Maybe it is a mentoring and coaching program. If you don't have one, I'm not going to say it's easy to set one up, but you can make it simple, right? And so the question for you, for our RPM listeners who are listening right now, in your current role, how are you empowering others around you for growth? And how are you fostering a team culture of responsibility and self-generated actions? These are the questions that top-notch PMs ask themselves. These are the questions that managers, PMO managers especially, love their teams to be asking themselves,
Great.
right?
Absolutely. And when the KPI is, what things have you taught someone else, right? What things have you been able to elevate somebody else to, and start to see rewards for that. That really comes in handy. The old proverb, I still think holds very true, right? Give a man a fish and you feed them for a day. You teach her how to fish, and now I can sit under a shady tree by the lake and receive a fish from somebody every day forever. Maybe not quite how it goes, but it's what I like to think about.
No, it has to do with delegating too, right?
Yes.
And not, you know, we're not indispensable. There are others that can fill our shoes and come along and be trained to do that. So I like the village fishing, teach man or a person to fish proverb. Glad you brought that up. Well, and then just the last thought too is about ego and how our egos can get in the way, especially going back to the transition planning and just feeling like if you've been slighted or offended or not treated very well, the low road is such an easy place to go.
It is, and it's a dangerous place that our egos will take us. And the other side of it is really starting to, don't believe your own press, right? Don't think you cannot be replaced. I know any number of people that economic downturns, they were let go, even though they thought they were indispensable, and they didn't have that transition plan. They didn't have, and it really did not make for a very smooth, elegant, rehirable kind of exit.
Yeah, a lot to think about, Paul. But I guess that to wind it all up, it's really, if you're trying to differentiate yourself and aspire to excellence, taking that active ownership and creating a solid transition plan on your way out the door, and realizing that you do have a part to play in succession strategizing, that those are tried and true ways to add value to your organization and also for your own street cred. So it's comes down to making choices of taking the high road and doing the right thing by yourself and others. So that's our show for today. That's what we've got for you on this episode of My Project Hell. Do us a favor and head over to our My Project Hell YouTube channel and follow our YouTube channel, or maybe while you're there, you want to listen to some past episodes. We've sure appreciated our listening audience. For those who are joining us today and took time out of their busy schedules to tune in, thank you so much. We appreciate you. And if you registered for My Project Hell, you'll get a post-show email where we have a very nice offer in there. Paul and I are always open to 30-minute coaching calls. If you want to pick our brain on something, share an idea, just click on that button. It goes to our calendars and schedule some time with us.
That's right. And I hope you all did enjoy the show, because I know Kelly and I, we do have a lot of fun. And so we hope you do too. Please join us next time. Our hot topic is going to be winning your next PM role. Not a bad one to follow up the transition, right?
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, exactly.
So if you would like to participate in Coach's Corner, drop us an email on myprojecthell@gmail.com, where, we are always looking for someone who wants to talk through their issues and get a little, live coaching during the show. And as Kelly said, the post-show email, you're going to find a link to that survey. We encourage you to take a look at it, fill it out, because we use it as lessons learned, right? Good project management. We always are learning from our past lessons. So please fill it out, give us the feedback.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Take care. We'll see you next time.
Thank you all.